As the sun began to set over the arid, dust-swept desert of Utah, Duane Ollinger and his crew stood at the edge of the Blind Frog Ranch, their eyes scanning the horizon. The day had been filled with intense labor and quiet anticipation, but as nightfall descended, an unsettling feeling began to creep into the atmosphere. The ranch, known for its deep-rooted history of treasure hunting and mysterious disappearances, was not a place to be taken lightly. For years, Duane and his team had been sifting through the land, determined to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the surface. There were rumors, stories passed down through generations of settlers, that gold, treasure, and untold riches were buried deep within the caverns of Blind Frog Ranch. However, what Duane and his crew hadn't anticipated was the looming threat of aggressive outsiders, people who had become fixated on the same treasure the crew sought. That evening, the usual hum of the desert wind was replaced by the eerie silence of tension. Duane adjusted his hat, his mind racing with thoughts of what the next few hours would bring. The land had always felt alive with secrets, but tonight, it seemed to pulse with something darker, something more sinister. "We need to stay alert," Duane said quietly, his voice steady but filled with an underlying urgency. "If anyone's out there, we don't know what they're capable of." His trusted team members, each seasoned by years of survival and treasure hunting, nodded in silent agreement. They knew the risks of working at Blind Frog Ranch. The place was notorious for more than just its treasure. Over the years, multiple searchers had gone missing, leaving behind only cryptic clues and tales of bizarre encounters. But the danger wasn't just in the land. It was in the people who sought to possess its secrets. Tonight, the stakes were higher than ever. The first sign of trouble came just after twilight. The crew had just wrapped up their excavation efforts for the day, storing their equipment and heading toward the campfire they had built near their base. The crackling of the fire was a welcome sound in the stillness of the desert night. But suddenly, the familiar rustling of the wind seemed to shift, replaced by a strange sound, a low, menacing hum. The hair on the back of Duane's neck stood up. "I don't like this," said Marty, one of Duane's longtime crew members. His sharp eyes, always on the lookout, had detected movement in the distance. A faint glow could be seen flickering through the trees and shrubs surrounding the ranch. The dim orange light flickered erratically, casting shadows that danced ominously across the terrain. Duane's instincts kicked in. He motioned for everyone to keep low and quiet. "Get to the trucks." Now he ordered. The crew immediately sprang into action, moving swiftly but silently. They had learned a hard way not to underestimate their enemies. As they reached the trucks, Duane's mind raced. Who could be out there? And why now, of all times, after months of quiet excavation? The glow in the distance was growing brighter, and Duane's heart sank when he realized the source: headlights. "Looks like we've got company," Duane muttered under his breath. A vehicle, its headlights cutting through the darkness, was approaching the ranch with alarming speed. Duane squinted into the night, trying to make out the shape of the vehicle. It was a black, nondescript SUV, just the type of vehicle that would blend in on a deserted stretch of land like this. But Duane knew better than to trust appearances. The vehicle was getting closer now. He could hear the tires crunching on the gravel as it sped toward the camp. Its crew was positioned strategically behind the trucks, weapons at the ready. They knew that these strangers weren't here for a casual visit. Duane's suspicion was confirmed when the SUV came to a screeching halt just a few yards away. The engine shut off, and the night fell into an oppressive silence once again. Then, the doors of the SUV opened, and two men stepped out. These weren't your typical treasure hunters. They were dressed in dark, tactical clothing, their faces obscured by masks. The men moved with an unsettling precision, scanning the area as if they knew exactly where to look. "Stay put," Duane whispered to his crew. His eyes narrowed as he watched the strangers. They were no ordinary wanderers. They were professionals. And the way they carried themselves suggested they had a clear mission in mind. As Duane's team waited, tension hung thick in the air. The crew was well prepared for all kinds of threats, whether from the land or from those who sought the treasure. But this was different. These were intruders, and they were here with an agenda. The two masked men advanced slowly, clearly on high alert. Crew could only watch from the shadows, unsure of how this confrontation would unfold. "Keep your distance," Duane muttered, barely audible. His crew had seen their fair share of confrontations, but this one felt different, more dangerous. The men paused just at the edge of the camp, and the taller one spoke, his voice cold and threatening. "We know you're looking for something," he said, his eyes scanning the area. "And we're here to make sure you don't find it." Duane's grip tightened on the handle of his rifle. "We're not looking for trouble," he called out. "But we'll defend ourselves if it comes to that." The intruder's gaze hardened, and for a moment, it seemed like the desert air held its breath. The tension was palpable, but neither side moved, waiting for the other to make the first mistake. "I'd advise you to leave," Duane continued, his voice steady. "This place isn't what you think it is." The other man, who had remained silent up until this point, stepped forward. His eyes locked on Duane's, and a wicked grin spread across his face. "You don't get to decide that," he replied, his tone filled with malice. "The treasure belongs to us now." A brief but intense silence followed. Duane's team remained poised, ready for whatever came next. The words of the intruders hung in the air, heavy with threat. The Blind Frog Ranch had always been a place of intrigue and danger, but now it seemed as though they were dealing with a new, far more dangerous kind of enemy. "Back off," Duane ordered, his voice low but firm. "We don't want any trouble." But the masked man only chuckled, his laughter sending a shiver down Duane's spine. "You've already got trouble, Ollinger," he sneered, "and it's not going anywhere." With that, the intruders began to move forward, their intentions clear. They were here to take what they believed was theirs, at any cost. In that moment, Duane knew there would be no simple resolution. Blind Frog Ranch wasn't just a place for treasure. It was a battleground now, a place where secrets would be uncovered and lives would be changed forever. And as the intruders closed in, Duane and his crew braced themselves for what would surely be a fight to the finish. The sound of boots crunching on the gravel echoed through the desert, and the firelight flickered wildly, casting long, distorted shadows over the camp. In the distance, the stars shimmered above, unaware of the growing tension below. Duane knew one thing for certain. The mystery of Blind Frog Ranch was far from over. And as night swallowed the land, the battle for its secrets had only just begun. The sun dipped below the distant mountains, casting a vibrant orange hue over the rugged landscape of Blind Frog Ranch. The crew, led by Duane Ollinger, stood on the edge of the property, eyes scanning the horizon. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. There were no howls of coyotes, no rustling of wildlife in the brush. Only the whisper of the wind, carrying the promise of something far more ominous. Duane had built a team of skilled individuals to help him uncover the secrets buried within the land of Blind Frog Ranch. For years, rumors had swirled about hidden treasures, ancient secrets, and the mystery of a gold mine long lost to time. But as each day passed, Duane and his crew were learning that the land had more to offer, more than they could ever imagine, and not all of it was friendly. For weeks, strange occurrences had been happening. Equipment malfunctioned without warning, lights flickered in the middle of the night, and the crew reported hearing footsteps in the dark when no one was around. Duane dismissed it all as mere coincidences, but the unease lingered. Tonight, however, was different. The crew had planned a new excavation near the heart of the ranch, a spot they believed held the answers to the questions that had haunted them for years. But as the crew set up their equipment, something felt off. As the sun slipped away completely, the crew gathered around the large excavation site. The earth had been turned up in the area where they believed a hidden cavern might lie beneath. Duane, alongside his trusty partner Chad, examined the marks on the ground, searching for clues. "We're close," Duane murmured. His eyes flicked up at the darkening sky. "I can feel it." Suddenly, a distant sound broke the silence, a faint crunching noise, like the movement of boots on gravel. Chad froze, his hand instinctively going to his holster. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, its eyes scanning the shadows. Duane's heart began to race. The ranch was isolated, and no one was supposed to be.